Hey everyone, I'm Lee. In this video, I want to give you a little bit of insight into what my first 3 months at AWS was like. Okay, so again, for those who don't know, I am a solutions architect at Amazon Web Services, which is AWS for short. I started doing this job a little over a year ago, and yeah, it's actually been a really good experience. So let's just kind of jump in there, right? Oh, but before that, make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that little bell notification so you can be reminded and notified of other videos like this one, but also on videos around having a home-based business, because you gotta be good stewards, and also around me and my wife's videos about just being us, right? Yeah, us. So anyway, so when I first started AWS, that imposter syndrome was hitting hard. I didn't have any cloud certifications at all. I barely kind of knew what some of the core services were even. So I could tell you what EC2 was, I could tell you what S3 was. So those that interview was definitely like, oh, okay, you know, it's very heavily on the leadership principles. So for those who don't know, AWS is very, 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 very big on their leadership principles. That's like one of the most important things. It's pretty much like the equivalent of, hey, a culture fit, right? So for many people, you may read the leadership principles and you may say, oh, this is already me. Like, I'm already doing this. And that's how it was for me. And when I applied for AWS and went through the interview process, I was like, well, yeah, like this is me. So fast forward, my first day, it was crazy because it's all remote. I had some issues with my laptop and everything. Me and my manager were trying to figure it out with the security keys. Yeah, so that was like pretty much my whole first day. My whole first day was just whatever. But really what happens is, like, when you start at AWS, they give you something called an embark plan, but you have about 90 to 180 days or 3 to 6 months to complete. So my embark plan had about 200 different things on there. So embark meaning your onboarding plan. So there was a collection of different videos for onboarding, culture videos for setting up systems like creating your email, downloading the applications, etc. And really just kind of digging deep into what your next few months are going to be like. There was also something called Awesome Builder, which is the process of actually letting you practice and learn about the value proposition in front of a panel of peers at AWS. So you have AB1, AB2, and AB3. And all three of those things, each is a different step. In your first one, you're going to get the value proposition of AWS. In that second one, you're going to then go over like a POC, or you're going to do some whiteboarding with a fake panel of people. And then your AB3, you're going to demo that. So all this was all within my first 3 months, or beginning first 6 months of onboarding. So next thing was like, oh, actually I have to say this. So with Awesome Builder, again, it's really just like you create the scenario and you kind of like figure out like, okay, I want this company XYZ has this problem, and we're gonna solve it with the cloud doing this. Maybe they want to have a hybrid architecture, or maybe they want to come fully cloud native, which means that they want to move everything they have on premises to AWS cloud. That was a really good experience, actually. My first one, I passed the first time. Actually, I passed everything the first time, so it actually really worked out. But the entire time, and that imposter syndrome was really creeping up on me, because one, I didn't have any certifications. So I spent my first month really just kind of like make sure that I understood just the basics of what AWS has to offer. So within my first one, I got my cloud practitioner certification. That was my first month. Then after that, I got my solutions architect associate within the first 6 months, as well as the security specialty. About at my 10-month mark is when I got my solutions architect professional certificate, and that's when I was like, yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm doing this, all right. Really good experience in the beginning there, but the main thing was really like having so much autonomy. It was like weird, like no one's on you, like no one was really on me to like, oh, make sure you do your embark plan. Now, I did meet weekly, and then at one point bi-weekly with my manager, just to kind of check in and see what was going on, like what was I working on, any pain points I may have, anything that was bothering me. They also connected me with an onboarding buddy, which ended up being my mentor, which shout out to him, who actually created CloudQuest with another team. And CloudQuest is a gamified way of learning AWS, where you will get to create your avatars, etc. But I got an onboarding buddy. I also got an Awesome Builder mentor. So that Awesome Builder process that I was just explaining a little bit ago, I had a mentor for that as well. And I met with them both, bi-weekly to check in. They would give me tips and everything. Now, the thing I really want to really like harp on that I thought was like really cool or really interesting is the fact that like there was this major understanding that you have to ramp up. Like no one was on me like they knew, like they hired me with no experience in the cloud directly. They hired me based on my transferable skills as as a business owner, my transferable skills in finance, my transferable skills as an entrepreneur, and everything else I have been doing in in my career at that time. So like that actually kind of was weird for me because, you know, you're so used to you give them a job, you want to hit the ground running. That I couldn't do. You know, like that's just real talk. I couldn't actually hit the ground running as well as I wanted to. There was very real barriers there, but the understanding was like real cool. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm pretty sure past a certain amount of time, they probably been like, hey, bro, you need to go ahead and figure this out now. You know, it's been 6 months we've been paying you, but you know, again, you know, you get that time to kind of ramp up. So for me, it was like very needed, very necessary. I pretty much was given 6 months to really almost this whole first year to really just learn and build on the platform, to get experience with the platform, to shadow other people, demoing products and talking to customers, to be able to just really, in a sense, have the training wheels on and have a safety net for failure. They also encouraged me to not worry about being right all the time, you know, to be able to just not be afraid to say, hey, I'm sorry, you know, Mr. Customer or Miss Customer, I don't know the answer to that. And that was something I really enjoyed as well. So I know right now there's like so many people who are looking at maybe working for a company like AWS and, you know, or some other company. Now, I can't speak to other companies. You know, all companies have their good, they all have their bad, of course, but it does depend on your team. You know, my team has been like awesome. One of the things that I really enjoyed about my team is just their willingness to kind of help. Like everyone kind of really jumps in as that collaborative nature. I have heard from other teams, other people or other teams that, you know, it isn't quite like that they're a little more thrown to the wolves. So if you are anyone out there interviewing for AWS, I definitely encourage you to ask the questions, like talk to people who are at the company, figure out what the team is you're going to be on, what the leadership style is of the manager of that team, or their skip or your skip manager as well, which is going to be the manager above your manager that you also fall up under. And yeah, that'd be really important. So again, just to recap, you know, I had a really good experience actually. I mean, it was almost like a blessing in disguise because yeah, I really needed that time, and they really gave me an opportunity to just really learn and build my confidence up. And you know, the whole time, again, that imposter syndrome was just heavy. Like I was the whole time just like, man, like when are they're gonna realize that I'm like a fake, I'm a fraud, I just interview really well. They're gonna say, man, hey man, we thought you were good at this. And that didn't happen. You know, there was definitely a very real assessment. The interview process, which I'll speak on in another video, really digs deep, and it probably was the best interview I've ever had. Not like as far as like my interviewing, but like the interviewers, you know, they really listened, they asked questions, they really they repeated back everything to me from like to show that they understood. And you know, you answer those questions in STAR format, which is basically you give a situation, what task you were given, what you took to achieve that, and then like the response, like the actual, you know, at the end, what was the result of everything that was before in that story. So very good experience, even from beginning to end. The recruiter also, you know, helped me get very prepared for the interview. Sent almost too many resources actually, and that was like really helpful. So yeah, hopefully that kind of gave you a little bit of insight. Again, like don't worry, you know, I think it's going to be the same way for any of these companies. I think they understand that you have not been doing this job. They understood that I wasn't doing that job beforehand. They understand that there's going to be new graduates who haven't done this job yet, but they just want to see that you are willing to learn and willing to do the work. In reality, technology can be taught to anyone, but what can't be taught is character. So focus on that. Focus on making sure that you have the great soft skills that you can sell yourself, and you should be just fine, just the way I was. And you can get a job with no certification also.